Captain Fernandez story. Teacher turns to guerrilla leader. Waray version of Mobile Legend Layla.
We can do
These
it!
U.S. Filipino fighting men have only one desire. It drives them at their work, and it gives them their motto, on to Bataan.
Time to shine! Slain an enemy!
Videos with current events.
Has granted with special powers.
Videos with interesting stories.
Sikorsky S-70
Videos with thrilling facts.
coronavirus.
And entertaining videos. This is MIL Teacher Sir Arjay, where you can get your daily dose of reliable information.
Try to think of a woman you know who has a good fighting skill and an excellent marksman skill. For gamers and non-gamers, you may have thought of Layla, right? Let me introduce her first before our main hero. Layla was born from a family of inventors. Though her family wanted her to become just like them, she chose another path. She wanted adventure, so she was trained by her grandfather, who is a former city guard. Later, she developed an adventurous spirit, an irrepressible sense of justice. Layla longed for adventure outside the city, which is very chaotic and dangerous for her. So, her father warned her that she should be mature enough. Layla felt they lacked support for her, but it was the opposite of what was Layla's thinking. Layla's father made her a malefic gun as a gift for her. Layla's father didn't anticipate that she would yearn more for adventure. On her 16th birthday, Layla secretly grabbed her malefic gun and slipped out of Eruditio under the cover of darkness to venture into a big, wild world. She eventually reached a remote city-state in the southwest of Monian Empire, where many children had mysteriously gone missing. Using the skills she learned from her grandfather, Layla found the gang of criminals who had been kidnapping the city's children and followed them all the way to their headquarters, determined to put an end to their wicked deeds and rescued the poor children. What an amazing story of a hero. Layla's story is definitely inspiring and awakens our sense of adventure. However, Layla is not our main character for today. Our character is Nieves Fernandez, a school teacher in Tacloban. Just like Layla, her life was upturned when the Japanese invaded the Philippines in 1941. Her students call her Miss Fernandez, and she was very protective of them. Her motherly instinct enraged when the Japanese threatened to kill her students. She turned from a motherly school teacher to a sneaky lone assassin credited for downing more than 200 Japanese soldiers in World War II. When the Japanese arrived in the Philippines in 1941, they took all the possessions of Filipinos. No one was allowed to own businesses, and no one was allowed to teach anything except those approved by Imperial Japan. In her hometown of Tacloban, the Japanese forced business owners into submission. Many men who disagreed with the Japanese authorities were tortured and faced boiling hot and ice-cold baths alternately, without any rest, food, and water except from the soap suds. This went on until they gave in. Fernandez told a reporter from the Lewiston Daily Sun in November 1944, "When the Japs came, no one could keep anything. They took everything they wanted." Many women also became vulnerable targets to sexual assaults. One of their biggest fears was to be forcibly used as comfort women by the Imperial Japanese Army. Eventually, Fernandez has had enough and decided to revolt against the Japanese government. Fernandez decided to take matters into her own hands after the Japanese took away her possessions and small business and threatened to take away her students as well. Fernandez became known as a silent killer. Alone and dressed in all black attire, she would set up ambushes in the jungle armed only with a makeshift gun which she made out of gas pipe and her bolo. For 2.5 years, Fernandez carried out ambushes on her own. She would head into the jungle barefoot, taking out dozens of enemy troops alone. In this photo, taken by Stanley Trotman in 1944, Fernandez demonstrates to an American soldier how she silently kills Japanese soldiers. She targets the carotid artery and the jugular, instantly killing her enemies. Eventually, her heroic deeds inspired the Tacloban men. Fernandez shifted from teaching the alphabet to school children to training men how to kill silently. From being called Miss Fernandez by her pupils, she earned the title Captain Fernandez among the 110 guerrillas under her command. Her small guerrilla army became so efficient and deadly. The Americans were astounded a woman led them. In fact, Fernandez was the only female guerrilla commander in the Philippines during World War II. The Japanese grew so wary of Fernandez, they decided to put a 10,000 peso bounty on her head in the hopes that her fellow Filipinos would betray her. But no one did. Throughout the war, Fernandez and her 110-strong company would liberate prisoners of war, sabotage Japanese supplies, and conduct hundreds of raids on the Japanese Imperial Army in the Philippines. Toward the end of World War II, and when the Americans under General MacArthur arrived on Leyte in 1944, Fernandez and her guerrilla forces had already liberated many villages from the Japanese and freed dozens of comfort women. Remedios Falas, a former comfort woman, revealed in her book The Hidden Battle of Leyte. The pictured diary of a girl taken by the Japanese military, how the guerrillas saved many young women that were being raped and about to be raped by the Japanese army. She vividly recounted how the guerrillas wiped out Japanese troops on various villages. Layla from Mobile Legends and Nieves Fernandez both exemplify the irrepressible sense of justice that led them to their victory.
People of the Philippines, I have returned. By the grace of Almighty God, our forces stand again on Philippine soil, soil consecrated in the blood of our two people. We have come dedicated and committed to the task of destroying every vestige of enemy control over your people. The hour of your redemption is here.
If you like this video, please click subscribe button below and we have more videos for you. Thank you.